It was just another regular day at the Colorado Springs Fire Department. The crew was hanging out, chatting about past rescues and keeping themselves ready in case something came up. Their gear was checked, the truck was stocked, and everyone was set to go. This team knew their stuff and was always ready for action. But none of them could have guessed that a simple phone call would lead to something they'd never forget. Right before noon, the call came in. A woman was on the line, panicked. She said she could hear animals crying from inside a storm drain near her home. She begged them to come quickly. She didn't know what to do, and the sound was breaking her heart. Calls like this weren't unusual, but each one was different, and the firefighters never knew exactly what they'd find. They jumped into their truck and headed out immediately. In this job, every minute mattered. Getting there just 5 minutes sooner could be the difference between life and death. When they got to the location, the woman was waiting. She looked shaken and quickly led them to the storm drain, explaining how she'd heard the cries while out for a jog. The team rushed over and took a look for themselves. Right away, they realized whatever was down there had to be pretty small to slip through the grates. They had no clue how many there were or exactly what kind of animals, but the sounds coming from below made them think they were puppies. They paused to plan their next move. Thankfully, it hadn't rained yet. If water had started flowing, those little ones might not have stood a chance. Even without water, it was freezing and pitch dark in the drain, not a place for tiny animals to be stuck. Their cries echoed up from the hole, weak and scared. The firefighters knew they'd have to lift the heavy grate to get them out. One question kept bothering them. How had these little ones ended up there in the first place, and where was their mother? It didn't make sense for a mother dog to leave her puppies behind, especially when they were this young. While some of the firefighters worked to open the storm drain, others started searching the area, hoping the mother might be nearby. They were also careful about handling the animals. If their mom was still around, she might reject them if their scent changed. That sort of thing happens a lot with stray or wild animals. They searched for hours, but there was still no sign of the mother. The firemen were stuck. Leaving the puppies down there any longer wasn't an option. The cold and damp could easily make them sick. They had to act. Finally, they managed to lift the top off the storm drain and decided it was time to bring the little ones out. Wearing gloves to protect the pup's scent, one of the firefighters slowly reached into the narrow space. Everyone stood by, watching closely as he pulled the first one up. They held their breath, curious to see what kind of animals they were. When the first tiny creature came into view, the whole team gasped. It was covered in soft black fur and fit right into the palm of a hand. As more were brought up, it became clear they were puppies. Tiny black-furred puppies that, thankfully, seemed to be in good health. The firefighters gently placed them on a clean white cloth, and the pups snuggled close to one another, trying to stay warm. The sight of it melted everyone's heart. The team instantly fell for these adorable little animals. But soon their happiness was replaced by a troubling thought. No dog would choose to raise her pups in a storm drain. It started to seem more likely that someone had put them there on purpose. Sadly, animal dumping wasn't new. Cases like this had become more common. Some people left litters behind because they couldn't afford to care for them or didn't have the space. But it was still hard to believe anyone could do something like that. There were so many shelters willing to help. No pet should ever be abandoned like this. The neighbors, the firemen, and everyone else around hoped that wasn't what had happened. Still, they knew they had to dig deeper to find out the truth. The team circled back to the woman who had called them. They asked her a few more questions, even though she had already explained what she saw. This whole situation just didn't add up. After listening to her story again, they thanked her for taking the time to report it. A lot of people might have ignored the cries, thinking it wasn't their problem. But she hadn't. Even though they hadn't figured out exactly how the puppies ended up there, the firemen started trying to identify what breed they might be. They took a closer look at the animals, noticing their shaggy black fur. Based on what they could see, the rescuers guessed they were probably Labrador puppies. The details didn't match perfectly, but honestly, No one even thought to question whether they were anything other than dogs. So they labeled them as Labradors and brought them to the Humane Society in the Pikes Peak region to get them checked out. The vet ran a full set of checks and gave good news. They were all healthy and strong. The team was sure it wouldn't take long before these adorable pups were adopted. One firefighter, Mark, even left his contact info with the vet, asking for any updates. Everyone left feeling good about what they'd done, proud of how the day had turned out. But they weren't expecting to hear back so soon. Not long after they got back to the station, Mark got a call from the vet. The whole team, still thinking about the little pups, gathered around to listen. Mark put the phone on speaker, and everyone waited, curious and excited for the update. The vet began by reassuring them the animals were fine, but what he said next caught them all off guard. It turned out they weren't puppies at all. They were fox kits. The vet explained that since they were wild animals, it was important to return them to the place where they were found. Their mother might still be nearby, looking for them, and the best place for fox kits to grow up was in the wild, not with humans. The firemen understood. As much as they had grown attached, they knew the right thing to do, so they prepared to return the kits to where they found them, right away. Since foxes usually come out at night, they decided to head back that same evening. But when they got there, they couldn't bring themselves to just leave the kits alone. At the same time, they knew if they stayed too close, the mother might never show up. Foxes are shy animals, no matter what stories say. So the firefighters kept a good distance, watching from afar, hoping she'd return. They waited until it got late, but no mama fox came. Still, they didn't give up. Night after night, they returned, quietly checking and hoping for a sign. All sorts of thoughts crossed their minds. What if she'd been scared off? What if something had happened to her? They couldn't know for sure, but they hoped she was safe somewhere out there. Eventually, when it became clear she wasn't coming back, the team made a new plan. They took the kits to a trusted place, the Woodland Park Animal Clinic. Known for helping wild animals recover and return to nature, it was the next best home for the little foxes. The clinic welcomed them, just as the firefighters hoped, and promised to give them the care they needed. The firemen left knowing they'd done the right thing. What began as an ordinary day turned into something they'd always remember, a rescue full of surprises, heart, and a whole lot of teamwork. Thanks so much for watching. If this story touched you, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more true stories like this one.